Is Europe becoming a talent farm for the USA?
Oh, wow.
Are Europe's brightest minds and investments fueling U.S. success?
Hmm.
Some even say that Europe is educating its youth and immigrants for the USA and Canada.
Really?
Stay with us as we unpack the future of Europe's potential brain drain crisis.
Right.
We're diving deep into articles,
Okay.
opinion pieces, and even a Reddit forum to understand if this is a crisis or an overblown concern.
What's fascinating is this idea of Europe as a utopia with a fantastic quality of life.
Yeah.
But we have to ask, if that's truly the case, why are so many Europeans choosing to leave?
Okay, let's look at the data.
Okay.
One article from the Mises Institute hit me with a startling statistic. 3 times as many Western Europeans moved to the U.S. as the other way around.
Wow.
In 2017, there were 2.9 million Western European-born individuals in the U.S.
Okay.
compared to just 690,000 U.S.-born people living in Western Europe.
Wow.
That's a pretty big difference.
It certainly challenges the narrative, doesn't it? You have to wonder, what are they seeking that they feel is missing in Europe?
Higher salaries in the U.S. are often cited as a reason,
Right.
especially in the tech sector.
Yeah.
But even that gap is closing
Yeah.
as U.S. companies expand into Europe and boost local salaries.
That's right.
Okay.
And it brings us to a point raised in a Pluralia article about capital leakage.
Okay.
The EU is investing heavily in important areas like climate change and defense,
Yeah.
but they're also losing a massive amount of capital. We're talking $250 billion annually, 8% of their GDP, mostly to the U.S.
So they're pouring money into these initiatives.
Right.
But a significant chunk of it is essentially flowing right back out.
Exactly.
Almost like trying to fill a leaky bucket.
That's a good analogy. And it begs the question, could this capital leakage be linked to the brain drain?
Yeah.
Is there a lack of compelling investment opportunities within Europe that's pushing both talent and capital towards the U.S.?
It makes you think, doesn't it? We often hear about the vibrant startup scene in the U.S.
Right.
Are European entrepreneurs finding it more attractive to take their ideas and their funding across the Atlantic?
It's certainly possible, and this is where things get interesting.
Okay.
We found a lively discussion on the European Federalists subreddit,
Okay.
where users debate whether a solution might lie in further European federalization.
Reddit.
Uh-huh.
The voice of the people.
Yeah,
It's always fascinating to get a grassroots perspective on these issues.
definitely.
What are they saying?
The opinions are diverse, of course.
Right.
But a recurring argument is that a more unified European market with less red tape could create a much stronger ecosystem for startups. This, they believe, could attract and retain top talent, creating a competitive environment to rival the U.S.
So the idea is that by becoming more like the U.S. in terms of business environment, Europe could stem the flow of talent and capital.
Precisely.
Okay.
The discussion even highlights a real-world example, Stripe.
Stripe, the payment processing platform.
Yes.
I use them all the time.
And it's actually a European success story founded in Ireland.
Oh, wow.
But ultimately, they decided to relocate their headquarters to the U.S.
Wow.
This story is a very real example of the potential losses Europe faces.
It almost feels like history repeating itself, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, the Wikipedia article on European immigration to the Americas details how, for centuries, people have been drawn to the Americas from Europe
Yeah.
in search of better opportunities.
You're right. It's a pattern that's played out over generations.
Right.
The question now is, are we seeing a new wave of this historical trend driven by the specific demands of the 21st century economy?
And if so, who exactly is making the move?
Right.
Is it a specific demographic?
That's where the Bruegel article, EU Immigration to the U.S. comes in.
Okay.
It provides a detailed breakdown of European immigration by region and skill set,
Okay.
and it paints a pretty clear picture. A significant portion of those obtaining U.S. green cards are doing so through employment, which indicates a strong flow of highly skilled professionals.
So it's not just about students or low-skilled workers seeking new opportunities.
Right.
We're talking about experienced professionals.
Yeah.
The kind of talent that any country would be eager to retain.
Exactly. And the implications of this are complex, prompting ongoing debate.
Okay.
The Wikipedia article on human capital flight actually presents both sides of the coin. While some argue brain drain is detrimental to the sending country,
Right.
others view it as a potential brain gain, a situation where those who leave eventually return home with enhanced skills and experience.
An interesting concept, right?
Yeah.
Could this temporary outflow of talent ultimately benefit Europe in the long run.
It's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
Imagine these individuals returning with a wealth of knowledge,
Right.
fresh perspectives, and maybe even the capital to launch new ventures. It could be a powerful driver of innovation.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's the risk of falling behind in key areas if too many talented individuals leave.
That's the other side of the coin, for sure.
Right.
And we have a great anecdote to illustrate that concern.
Okay.
We heard from a European student studying in the U.S.
Right.
who noticed a striking trend.
Oh.
A significant number of their fellow students, especially in fields like space manufacturing and quantum computing, were also European. These cutting-edge industries seem to be dominated by U.S. institutions, drawing in talent from around the globe.
That's a little unsettling, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder if Europe is losing ground in these critical fields that will shape the future.
It's a valid concern, and it ties in perfectly with a fascinating study mentioned in the Wikipedia article.
Okay.
This study found that financial incentives alone are not a strong motivator for creativity.
So even if European salaries catch up, it might not be enough to stem the flow.
It's a possibility. This raises a very important question.
Yeah.
What else is at play here? Is there something about the U.S. environment, the culture, the research infrastructure, the perception of opportunity that's proving more attractive to those seeking to push the boundaries of innovation?
That's a great question, and one we'll need to explore further.
Right. It seems that for many highly skilled individuals, especially in those cutting-edge fields,
Yeah.
the decision to relocate goes beyond just a bigger paycheck.
You're saying it's not just about the money.
Right.
What else are these folks looking for?
Well, they want an environment where they feel valued,
Okay.
where they have access to cutting-edge resources
Okay.
and the best minds in their field, a place where they can truly make a difference.
So it's about finding an environment that aligns with their ambitions, a place where they can truly thrive.
Precisely.
Okay.
And that brings us back to that Reddit discussion about European federalization.
Yeah.
Could a more unified Europe, with a stronger emphasis on research and development, be the key to creating this kind of environment?
So creating a kind of European Silicon Valley, a hub of innovation and entrepreneurship,
Yeah,
sounds exciting.
it does.
But would that really be enough to compete with the established U.S. ecosystem?
Well, think about it this way.
Okay.
It wouldn't just be about building fancy labs and offices.
Right.
It would be about fostering a culture of innovation, providing strong support for startups,
Okay.
and maybe streamlining some of those regulations that can sometimes stifle growth.
Right, because right now, it seems like Europe is at risk of losing its most promising companies and ideas. We already talked about Stripe, but who knows how many other potential success stories are out there.
And that's why understanding the U.S. model is important.
Okay.
They've certainly been successful in attracting global talent and creating an environment where innovation flourishes.
But what is it about the U.S. that's so attractive?
Right.
Is it just about throwing money at research and development?
Money certainly plays a role.
Yeah.
The U.S. invests heavily in R&D,
Yeah.
both from the public and private sectors.
But it goes deeper than that.
Yeah,
They've managed to create a culture where failure isn't a stigma.
right.
It's seen as a learning opportunity.
Okay.
Risk-taking is encouraged,
Mhm.
and collaboration and knowledge sharing are highly valued.
So it's almost like a cultural shift where innovation is woven into the fabric of society.
Exactly. And that might be something for Europe to consider.
Yeah.
How can they encourage this kind of dynamism and entrepreneurial spirit?
Okay, we've talked about the economic factors, but what about the personal side of things?
Sure, right.
Quality of life,
Yeah.
personal interests, even family considerations.
Yeah.
Those must play a role too, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And those factors were highlighted in the Reddit discussion as well.
Oh.
One user mentioned that while they had moved to the U.S. for a better salary,
Okay.
they missed Europe and wished they could find a way to work on both sides of the Atlantic.
It's that age-old dilemma, isn't it?
Yeah.
Heart versus head. You might be drawn to exciting opportunities elsewhere. Right.
But your roots and your heart remain in your home country.
Exactly.
And I imagine for people with families,
Yeah.
things like access to good schools, healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
and a supportive community are major factors.
You're absolutely right. So how can Europe compete on that front?
Yeah.
How can they make staying in Europe a more attractive option, not just for individuals, but for families as well?
It sounds like it's about more than just competing economically with the U.S.
Right.
It's about creating a society that truly values its citizens,
Yeah.
and provides a high quality of life across the board.
Exactly.
Mm.
And that might involve focusing on things like affordable housing,
Yeah.
promoting a healthy work-life balance, and creating more pathways for social mobility.
Right, because at the end of the day, people want to feel like they have a chance to build a good life for themselves and their families no matter where they choose to live.
And that's where this concept of brain circulation comes into play. It's not just about preventing people from leaving, but about encouraging those who have left to return,
Okay.
bringing their newfound skills and global perspectives with them.
It's like creating a global network of talent, where individuals benefit from international experience, but ultimately contribute to the growth and development of their home country.
Right.
But how do you actually encourage that kind of circulation?
Well, you could create programs specifically designed to support returning expats,
Okay.
helping them reintegrate into the workforce and into society.
So things like tax incentives,
Yeah.
job placement assistance,
Mhm.
maybe even help with navigating the bureaucracy of moving back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Make the transition as smooth as possible.
Right.
But it also goes beyond practical support.
Yeah.
It's about truly recognizing and valuing the skills and experience that these returning expats bring with them.
Because they're not coming back empty-handed. They're bringing a wealth of knowledge and new perspectives that could be invaluable to their home country.
And that's how you turn brain drain into brain gain.
Okay.
Imagine these individuals returning home,
Yeah.
energized by their experiences abroad, ready to start new businesses,
Right.
lead research projects,
Okay.
and contribute to their communities in ways they might not have been able to before.
It sounds almost idealistic, but it's an exciting vision.
It is.
This idea of a global exchange of knowledge and skills, ultimately benefiting everyone involved.
But we have to remember that talent flows aren't limited to just Europe and the US.
Right.
It's a global phenomenon.
Okay.
People are constantly moving in search of opportunity.
Yeah.
And no country can afford to ignore that reality.
You're right.
So instead of trying to build walls,
Yeah.
maybe the focus should be on creating an environment that's attractive to talented individuals from all over the world,
Okay.
while also supporting the development of talent within Europe itself.
A win-win situation where everyone benefits from the exchange of knowledge and skills.
Right.
But how do you create that kind of environment? Where do you even begin?
Well, one piece of the puzzle might lie in rethinking immigration policies.
Yes, immigration. Always a complex and often controversial topic.
Yeah.
How does it fit into the picture here?
Think about it this way.
Okay.
If Europe wants to attract and retain top talent, they need to have immigration policies that are welcoming and efficient.
Because right now, it seems like the U.S. has the upper hand in the global talent war. They've been incredibly successful at attracting highly skilled immigrants.
And that's partly because they've made the process relatively straightforward. Their points-based immigration system prioritizes skills and qualifications, making it easier for talented individuals to obtain visas and work permits.
So it's about removing bureaucratic hurdles and making the process as smooth as possible for those who have something valuable to offer.
Exactly. And it's not just about temporary work visas.
Right.
It's about providing clear pathways to permanent residency and citizenship.
Because, let's be honest, most people are looking for stability and a sense of belonging, not just a short-term work assignment.
Yeah.
They want to feel like they can put down roots and build a life in their new home.
And when talented individuals feel welcomed and valued, they're more likely to stay and contribute to their adopted country.
Okay, so making it easier for skilled immigrants to come to Europe and build a life there seems like a good step.
Right.
But I can't help but wonder, wouldn't that just shift the brain drain problem? Wouldn't Europe be attracting talent at the expense of other parts of the world?
It's a valid concern for sure, but we have to remember that talent flows are a global phenomenon. People are always moving, searching for better opportunities, and Europe can't simply isolate itself from this reality.
So it's about finding a balance, right? Attracting talent while also recognizing the importance of fostering talent development in other parts of the world.
Exactly.
Okay.
It might even involve a more collaborative approach to immigration policy, working with other countries to ensure that the flow of talent is mutually beneficial.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the economic factors, the personal motivations, the potential solutions.
Yeah.
But before we go any further,
Right.
I want to bring it back to the listener. What does all this mean for you, the person listening to this right now?
That's a great point. It's important to connect these global trends back to the individual experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, listener, what can you take away from all of this?
Well, for one thing, it highlights just how interconnected our world has become.
Yeah.
Talent is a global resource,
Right.
and people have more choices than ever before about where they want to live and work.
So whether we realize it or not, we're all part of this global talent pool.
That's right.
Okay.
And that means the competition for talent is only going to intensify in the years to come.
So if Europe wants to remain competitive, they need to step up their game.
Absolutely. But this isn't just about Europe. It's a challenge for every country and region.
Right.
How do you create an environment that attracts and nurtures the best and brightest?
Because at the end of the day, talent is the engine of innovation,
Right.
economic growth, and progress.
Exactly. And that's why this issue of brain drain is so important.
Yeah.
It's not just an economic issue, it's about the future of our societies and the well-being of our planet.
It's something we should all be thinking about,
Yeah,
regardless of where we live or work.
definitely.
So what can we do?
Well, for starters, stay informed.
Okay.
Keep learning about these issues. Engage in discussions.
Okay.
And share your own perspectives.
Right, because the more we understand the challenges and the potential solutions, the better equipped we'll be to create a future where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
And remember, this isn't just about policymakers and governments.
Right.
It's about all of us
Yeah.
as individuals, making choices that support the development and sharing of knowledge and skills.
Okay, so we've established that this is a complex issue with no easy answers.
Right.
But I have to ask, is it all doom and gloom? Is there any reason for optimism?
Absolutely. In fact, I think there's a lot to be optimistic about.
I'm all ears.
Uh,
Okay, tell me more.
Well, for one thing, we're having this conversation. People are aware of the challenges and they're actively seeking solutions.
So awareness is the first step towards change.
Exactly.
Okay.
And beyond awareness, we're seeing a growing movement towards global collaboration.
Well,
More and more people are recognizing the value of international experience and cross-cultural exchange.
it's almost like we're moving towards a more interconnected and collaborative world
Yeah.
where talent can flow freely
Right?
and where everyone have the opportunity to contribute their unique skills and perspectives.
That's the vision, and I think it's a vision worth striving for.
No.
We have the technology, the resources, and the talent to create a truly remarkable future.
Okay.
But it's going to require a shift in mindset,
Right.
a willingness to embrace change,
Mhm.
and a commitment to working together.
I love that. It's a call to action for all of us. So listener, as you go about your day, consider this.
Okay.
How can you contribute to this vision of a more interconnected and collaborative world? What choices can you make that support the development and sharing of knowledge and skills?
Because in the end, it's not just about brain drain or brain gain.
Right.
It's about brain power and how we can collectively harness that power to create a better future for everyone.
Beautifully said.
Thanks.
I think that's a great place to wrap up this part of our deep dive.
Okay.
But we're not done yet. We still need to delve into some potential solutions and really unpack what the future holds for Europe in this global talent race.
Stay tuned because in the final part of this deep dive, we're going to explore some thought-provoking ideas and challenge some conventional wisdom.
All right, we spent a good amount of time dissecting this idea of a European brain drain. We've looked at the statistics, the personal stories, even delved into some potential solutions. But now I'm wondering, is there something more fundamental at play here? Something about the very fabric of European society that might be contributing to this talent exodus?
That's a very insightful question, and it really gets to the heart of the matter. We've talked about competing with the U.S. in terms of salaries, opportunities, and even culture. But what if the issue is more deeply rooted?
You've got me intrigued. What are you thinking?
Well, some argue that certain aspects of the European model, while well-intentioned, might actually be hindering innovation and discouraging entrepreneurship.
Really? That's a pretty bold statement. What specifically are they pointing to?
One common criticism is that Europe's strong social safety net, while admirable in providing security for its citizens, could also create a culture of complacency. When you have a strong safety net, there might be less incentive to take risks, to strike out on your own and try something new.
Interesting. So the very things that make Europe attractive to many, the job security, the generous benefits, could also be holding it back in the global innovation race. It's like a double-edged sword.
Exactly. And it ties into the idea we discussed earlier about the U.S. having a more accepting view of failure. In a culture where risk-taking is encouraged, failure is seen as a valuable learning experience, a stepping stone on the path to success.
And if Europe wants to compete in this global innovation landscape, they might need to embrace that mindset as well.
Absolutely. It's not about abandoning the social safety net altogether. It's about finding a balance, a way to encourage both security and innovation.
Right. It's about creating a system that supports those who are struggling while also empowering those who have the drive and ambition to push boundaries and create something new. But how do you strike that balance? It sounds incredibly challenging.
It is. But it's a conversation that needs to be had. And there are other areas where some argue the European model might need to adapt. One that often comes up is the regulatory environment.
Ah, yes, regulations. The necessary evil, some might say. But how do they play into this discussion about brain drain?
Well, Europe has a reputation for having a very comprehensive and often complex regulatory framework. And while this is often seen as a positive thing, protecting consumers, workers, and the environment, it can also be seen as a barrier to innovation.
I see where you're going with this. Regulations, while important, can sometimes stifle creativity and make it difficult for new ideas to flourish.
That's the argument, and it goes back to the idea of finding the right balance. Too much regulation can stifle growth, but too little can lead to chaos and instability.
So it's not about throwing out regulations altogether. It's about creating a system that's both protective and adaptable, a system that allows for experimentation and risk-taking.
Precisely. And there's another area where some see room for improvement:
Education.
education. But Europe has a fantastic reputation for having excellent schools and universities. That's true. But the argument here is that the European education system, while strong in many ways, might not be adequately preparing students for the demands of the 21st century workforce.
You're talking about a skills gap. Like, the curriculum isn't keeping pace with the rapid changes happening in the job market.
That's right, and it goes beyond just technical skills. It's about fostering critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, and adaptability, the kinds of skills that are increasingly in demand in today's global economy.
Okay, so we've talked about reforming the regulatory environment and adapting the education system. What else is on the table?
Well, there's this whole cultural aspect that we can't ignore. Some argue that Europe needs to do more to promote entrepreneurship and risk-taking.
Because the U.S. has a much stronger entrepreneurial culture, a place where failure isn't seen as a mark of shame, but as a valuable learning experience.
Exactly. And fostering that kind of culture might involve shifting mindsets, celebrating entrepreneurial success stories, and providing more support for those who are willing to take the leap and start something new.
So it's not just about policy changes. It's about a cultural shift, a change in attitudes and perceptions.
Absolutely. It's about creating an environment where innovation is embraced, where risk-taking is rewarded, and where failure is seen as a stepping stone on the path to success.
Okay, so reforming the regulatory environment, adapting the education system, fostering an entrepreneurial culture, these are all huge challenges. But it seems like they're necessary steps if Europe wants to address the root causes of brain drain and become a true global leader in innovation.
I agree. And it's important to remember that this isn't just about economics. It's about creating a society that's attractive to talented individuals from all walks of life, a society where people feel valued, where they have opportunities to grow and contribute, and where they feel a sense of belonging.
It's about creating a place where people want to live, not just a place where they work.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes this conversation so important. It's not just about brain drain. It's about shaping the future of our societies and creating a world where everyone has the chance to thrive.
That's a powerful message. So for our listeners out there, what can they take away from this deep dive into the complex world of European brain drain?
Well, I think the key takeaway is that this is an issue with global implications. Talent flows are reshaping the world, and every country needs to be thinking about how they can attract and retain the best and brightest.
Right, because in the end, it's not about one country winning and another losing. It's about creating a world where knowledge and skills are shared freely, where collaboration is encouraged, and where everyone has the opportunity to reach their full potential.
It's a vision worth striving for, and I believe it's a vision we can achieve if we work together. So to our listeners, I encourage you to stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged in this vital conversation about the future of talent and innovation.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into European brain drain. We hope this has been an insightful and thought-provoking journey, and we encourage you to continue exploring this topic on your own. Thanks for joining us.